The message arrived with 1 hour remaining on the countdown. Not a broadcast, not an ultimatum. A simple request for direct communication between Kelthrak and Earth's leadership. In the command center of the Liberty Station, Admiral Sarah Chen looked at President Volkov's image on the screen. Both women felt the weight of what came next. It could be a trap, Sarah said quietly. Everything is a trap until it isn't, Elena replied. Open the channel. Kelthrak's crystalline form appeared on their screens. For the first time, humans and Concordat faced each other not as enemies delivering ultimatums, but as equals attempting communication. The change in tone was immediate and obvious. President Volkov, Admiral Chen, Dr. Webb, Kelthrak said, acknowledging each of them.
Thank you for speaking with me. You're calling off the deadline?
Elena asked directly. Humans didn't do diplomatic dancing when stakes were this high. I'm asking for clarity, Kelthrak said. His form flickered through colors that the translation system rendered as uncertainty and concern. Your transmission was received. Your message was understood. But I need to know something. The violence in your history, the wars, the weapons, the constant conflict. Do you celebrate these things? Marcus stepped forward, understanding the real question beneath the words. No, we remember them. We study them. We teach them to our children so they understand the cost of violence. But celebrate? No, every war memorial on Earth is a monument to loss, not victory. Then why continue? Kelthrak asked. Why develop more weapons? Why maintain armies? Why not choose peace? Sarah answered this one, her voice hard with experience. Because peace is a luxury you earn through strength. Every human civilization that chose pure pacifism was conquered by those who didn't. We want peace. But we prepare for war because history taught us that sometimes war chooses you. Elena added. You came here with an armada and gave us an ultimatum. You chose to threaten us. We responded with strength because that's the only language that matters when someone points a gun at your head. Kelthrak's colors shifted to something the humans had never seen before. After a moment, the translation system labeled it as shame. You're right, he said quietly. We came here with the arrogance of the strong, believing we knew what was best for you. We didn't ask. We demanded. Why? Marcus asked. The real why, not the official reason about us being dangerous. What are you really afraid of? For a long moment, Kelthrak was silent. Then his form pulsed with a color that translated as resignation, as though he were making a decision that couldn't be unmade. There are others, he said, beyond the borders of Concordat space, species that are nothing like us. Aggressive, expansionist, violent. We've held them at bay for millennia through diplomacy, through defensive pacts, through superior numbers, but we're losing ground. Images appeared on the screens. Alien ships of dark metal and cruel design. Worlds stripped of life. Concordat colonies destroyed. It was a history of slow retreat, of borders shrinking, of peaceful species learning too late that the galaxy was not as gentle as they believed. We've never won a military conflict, Kelthrak admitted. We don't know how. When we fight, we lose. Our tactics are predictable. Our strategies are defensive. We negotiate, we retreat, we rebuild, and every time we lose more territory. Sarah felt something shift in her understanding. You didn't come here to destroy us. You came here because you're desperate. We saw your violence and saw the enemy we've been fighting for thousands of years, Kelthrak said. We thought if we could control you, guide you, prevent you from becoming like them, perhaps we could break the cycle. Perhaps we could have peace. By taking away our choice, Elena said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Kelthrak said. We were wrong. Your transmission made that clear. You're not like the enemies we face. You're violent, yes, but you're also creative, resilient, capable of incredible progress. And most importantly, you choose your violence. It's not instinct for you, it's strategy. Marcus pulled up data on his tablet, his mind racing. These enemies of yours, show me their tactics. Kelthrak transmitted files. Marcus studied them for several minutes, his expression growing more thoughtful. Then he looked up at Sarah and Elena. They're aggressive but predictable, he said. They use overwhelming force and intimidation. They strike hard and fast. But there's no subtlety, no adaptation, because they've never needed to, Sarah said, seeing where he was going. They've only fought species like the Concordat, species that don't know how to fight back. Kelthrak's form brightened with what might have been hope. You see a way to defeat them. Maybe not defeat, Sarah said carefully. but I see a way to make them think twice about attacking. Humans have been outnumbered and outgunned for our entire history. We got very good at making victory too expensive for our enemies. Elena stood, her decision made. Ambassador Kelthrak, I'm going to propose something unprecedented. Not surrender. Not subjugation. Partnership. Explain, Kelthrak said. You have technology, numbers, and resources we can't match, Elena said. But you need something only we can provide. Not just warriors. Humans who understand conflict at every level. Tacticians who think in terms of asymmetric warfare. Strategists who can anticipate aggression. Because we've lived with it. Survivors who know how to fight from inferior positions and win. Marcus added. You teach us your science, your technology, your philosophy. We teach you ours. Combat tactics. Strategic thinking. How to fight when fighting is necessary. And in return, Kelthrak asked. Full sovereignty for Earth, Sarah said firmly. We're not joining the Concordat as subjects. We're joining as equals. We contribute to mutual defense. We share knowledge. But Earth governs itself. Kelthrak was quiet for a long time. The humans could see him communicating with others, his form flickering through rapid color changes. Finally he spoke. The council is divided. Many fear you. Many distrust you. But many also recognize that what you offer is exactly what we need. Fear and distrust we can work with, Elena said. It's honest. And trust is earned, not given. There will be conditions, Kelthrak said. Oversight of your most dangerous technologies. Regular inspections. Limits on your military expansion outside your solar system, until both sides are comfortable with the arrangement. Acceptable, Elena said. As long as those same conditions apply to Concordat oversight. You inspect us, we inspect you. Equal partnership means equal accountability. Kelthrak's colors shifted to what the translation labeled as amusement. You drive a hard bargain. We're human, Sarah said with a slight smile. It's what we do. Over the next week, the framework of a treaty emerged. It was messy and complicated, full of compromises from both sides. The Concordat would provide technological assistance and access to their knowledge base. Earth would contribute military expertise and strategic thinking. Joint defense forces would be established. Cultural exchanges would begin. Most importantly, a new principle was established in Concordat law. The right of sovereign development. Species could no longer be forcibly integrated. They had to choose. 6 months later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, Earth's first true warship, built with combined human and Concordat technology. Beside her stood Commander Kelthran, Kelthrak's nephew, assigned as liaison officer. Contact, the sensor officer called out. Unknown vessels entering Concordat space. Configuration matches the hostiles. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This was it. The first real test of the human Concordat alliance. How many? She asked. 23 vessels. Concordat Colony Theta 7 is their target. Time to intercept? 40 minutes if we push the engines. Sarah looked at Kelthran. Your people ready? Ready, the young Concordat officer said, though his colors showed nervousness. Then let's show these hostiles something new, Sarah said. She opened a channel to the fleet. Human and Concordat ships working together for the first time. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're going to do this differently than the enemy expects. No direct confrontation. We're going to use feints, false retreats, and crossfire patterns. Make them think we're weak. Then hit them from angles they're not watching. She pulled up tactical displays. Human ships, you know these maneuvers. Concordat ships follow our lead and adapt. Remember, the goal isn't to destroy them all. The goal is to make them retreat. To make them understand that attacking Concordat space now means fighting an enemy that doesn't play by their rules. The fleet moved out. As they approached the hostile forces, Sarah saw the enemy ships assuming their standard attack formation. Aggressive, confident, predictable. Execute pattern Delta 7, she ordered. The human ships surged forward, then broke and scattered as if in panic. The enemy took the bait and pursued. The Concordat ships, following the human example, appeared to flee. The enemy pressed their advantage, spreading out to chase multiple targets. And then the trap closed. Human ships that had seemed to flee suddenly reversed course. Concordat vessels that appeared damaged opened fire from unexpected angles. The crossfire caught the enemy completely by surprise. 3 enemy ships took critical damage in the first volley. The rest tried to reform, but the human Concordat fleet gave them no time. They harried and struck. used hit-and-run tactics, forced the enemy to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. The Concordat flagship Eternal Judgment hung in space like a dark jewel, its surface rippling with energy, as the council chamber inside erupted in chaos. Kelthrak stood at the center, his crystalline body flickering through colors that signaled distress and confusion among his species. Around him, representatives of 47 alien civilizations argued with an intensity he had never witnessed before. The chamber, usually a place of calm deliberation, sounded like a storm. "This is unacceptable," shouted the Vryn ambassador, a floating being of pure energy contained in a shimmering field. "They threaten us. They must be pacified immediately." "Wait," countered the Threll representative, an insectoid creature whose translated voice buzzed with concern. "Did you see their technological advances? 18 months. They achieved in 18 months what we couldn't do in 1,000 years, which proves they're dangerous." The Vryn ambassador shot back. Kelthrak raised one crystalline limb, and slowly the chamber fell silent. His species was old, respected, and he was their best diplomat. But even he felt shaken by what he had witnessed. "We need to analyze this calmly," he said, though his own colors showed he was anything but calm. "Review the data they sent. All of it." For the next 3 hours, the council studied humanity's history. They watched empires rise and fall. They saw wars that killed millions. They witnessed plagues and famines and disasters. But they also saw something else. Something that disturbed them more than the violence: resilience. Every time humanity fell, it rose again. Every time disaster struck, humans rebuilt. Every time extinction threatened, humans found a way to survive. The pattern repeated across 10,000 years. Fall, rise, fall, rise, each time stronger than before. A Kelnar scientist, a being of living crystal similar to Kelthrak but smaller and more delicate, presented his analysis to the council. "Their concept of warfare is fundamentally different from ours," he explained, bringing up comparative data. "When we fight, it's to achieve specific objectives. When they fight, it's total. They have a term for it. Totalva. Every resource, every citizen, every technology dedicated to victory." Images showed human conflicts. The world wars where entire nations mobilized. Civil wars where brother fought brother. Revolutions where people chose death over oppression. "Look at this," the scientist continued, pulling up a specific example. The Battle of Stalingrad. Humans fought over a single city for 5 months. Over 1 million casualties. Buildings destroyed. Both sides starving and freezing. Any rational species would have retreated. They kept fighting. "Why?" asked the Threll ambassador, genuinely confused. "Because retreat meant defeat. And humans have cultural heroes who died rather than retreat. They teach their children stories about last stands, about heroic failures, about choosing death over surrender." The council chamber fell silent. The concept was alien to them. Literally alien. Every Concordat species valued survival above honor. Retreat was a valid tactic. Surrender was acceptable if it preserved life. But humans were different. Another scientist, this one Vryn, presented his findings. Their military doctrine is equally concerning. They have developed thousands of strategies for asymmetric warfare. Fighting from inferior positions. Guerrilla tactics. Terrorist methods. "Terrorist?" Kelthrak asked. "Their word for fighters who use unconventional methods against superior forces. They've refined these techniques across millennia. And here's the critical point." The Vryn scientist paused. "These methods work. Their history shows that superior technology and numbers don't guarantee victory. Not against humans. More examples. Vietnam, Afghanistan. Dozens of conflicts where technologically advanced forces lost to determined insurgencies. The Concordat species studied warfare academically. Humans studied it through experience. Bitter, bloody experience." A new voice spoke up. Ambassador Thys of the Kalor, a telepathic species that rarely participated in debates. When they spoke, others listened. "There is something else in their data," Thys said, their mental voice touching every mind in the chamber. Something they included deliberately. Their art, their literature, their philosophy. Have any of you actually examined it? Kelthrak had. He had spent hours reviewing human culture, trying to understand their thinking, and what he found disturbed him more than their weapons ever could. "They glorify struggle," he said quietly. "Their greatest stories are about overcoming impossible odds. Their heroes are warriors and revolutionaries. Their music speaks of defiance and resistance. Their art celebrates survival, because that's what their world taught them, Thais continued. Paradise species like us, we evolved in abundance. We learned cooperation because resources were plentiful. We developed philosophy because we had time to think. But Earth is a death world. Resources were scarce. Predators were everywhere. Survival required violence. Images of Earth appeared on the screens. Beautiful oceans and mountains, lush forests and vast plains. It looked like paradise. But the data told a different story. Gravity 30% higher than concordate standard. Temperature swings of 60 degrees between seasons. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most concordate species. Thousands of predator species each evolved to be efficient killers. Bacteria and viruses that mutated constantly, requiring immune systems of incredible complexity. By our standards, the Kalor ambassador said, Earth is barely habitable. And yet humans didn't just survive there. They conquered it. They killed every major predator. They dominated every ecosystem. They made a death world into their garden. Then they started fighting each other, the Threll added grimly. Because that's what you do when external threats are eliminated, Kelthrak said. You turn your competitive instincts inward. Humans have been at war, somewhere on their planet, for 95% of their recorded history. War isn't an aberration for them. Peace is. The council members absorbed this information with growing dread. They had thought they were dealing with a young, foolish species that needed guidance. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented. A species optimized by evolution for conflict. A species that saw obstacles as challenges and impossibility as motivation. Their technological progress, the Kelnar scientist said, returning to that point. It's not random. Look at the pattern. Their greatest innovations come during or immediately after major conflicts. Nuclear power came from weapons research. Rockets came from weapons research. Computers, satellites, the internet, all military technologies adapted for civilian use. They weaponize everything, the Vryn ambassador said with something like awe. Even peace. Kelthrak pulled up another piece of human data. Their philosophical writings. He had read them all, trying to understand human thinking. They have a concept called mutually assured destruction, he explained. During their Cold War, 2 human nations had enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet many times over. The only thing that kept them from using these weapons was the certainty that both sides would die. That's insane, someone said. That's human, Kelthrak corrected. They balanced on the edge of extinction for decades, and it worked. Because humans understand something we don't. Sometimes the threat of total annihilation is the only thing that prevents war. He pulled up more data. Human defensive preparations. In the 6 hours since their transmission, humanity had revealed some of their contingency plans. Automated weapon systems throughout the solar system. Colony ships already launched to nearby stars. Dead man switches that would activate if Earth fell. If we attack them and win, Kelthrak said slowly, we'll spend the next 1,000 years hunting down every human settlement, every hidden base, every revenge weapon they've seeded across space. And humans excel at hiding, at surviving, at striking from the shadows. You're saying we can't win, the Vryn ambassador said. I'm saying victory would cost us everything we are, Kelthrak replied. Yes, we can destroy Earth, we can kill billions of humans, but we can't kill all of them. And the survivors will dedicate themselves to revenge. That's what their history teaches. That's what their culture celebrates. Revenge, honor, justice, whatever word they use, the result is the same. They'll come for us. The council chamber fell into troubled silence. They had come to the system expecting easy compliance or an easy war. They had found neither. Ambassador Thys spoke again. There's something else in their transmission. Something buried in the subtext. Did anyone else sense it? Kelthrak had. His species was sensitive to emotional undertones, and the human transmission had been loaded with them. They're not just threatening us, he said. They're offering us something. What? Several voices asked at once. Kelthrak's crystalline form pulsed with realization. They're offering to be what we can't be. They know why we came. They know we're not doing this just to be cruel. They sensed our fear, and they had. Because humans, for all their violence, were also empathetic. They understood fear because they had lived with it every day of their evolution, and they had sensed that the Concordate's aggression came from a place of desperation. We need to talk to them, Kelthrak said. Really talk. Not demand, Not threaten, talk, and if they refuse? The Vryn asked. Kelthrak looked at the countdown timer. 3 hours remained. 3 hours to decide the fate of both their civilizations. Then we all lose, he said simply. The countdown showed 6 hours remaining when President Elena Volkov stood before the cameras. Behind her stood Admiral Sarah Chen in full uniform and Dr. Marcus Webb in a simple suit. They were in the United Nations building in New York, in a room that had seen countless historic moments. But none like this. Every screen on Earth showed their faces. Every radio broadcast their voices. And more importantly, every signal was being transmitted directly to the Concordat fleet waiting at the edge of the solar system. Elena looked directly into the camera. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something fierce and unyielding. Ambassador Kelthrak, she began, you gave us 72 hours to surrender. We have used that time to prepare our response. This is it, she paused, letting the words hang in the air. No, the single word echoed across the planet and into space. In the Concordat flagship, Kelthrak's crystalline form flickered with surprise. The council chamber around him filled with concerned murmurs from the various alien species. Elena continued. You called us volatile, dangerous, reckless, you're right. We are all of those things. But you don't understand why. So we're going to show you. Sarah stepped forward. We've prepared a data package. It contains our complete history, every war, every disaster, every moment of violence and survival. We're transmitting it to you now, not because we hope it will change your mind, but because you need to understand what you're threatening. The data began streaming toward the Concordat fleet, terabytes of information, images and videos and records that told the story of humanity's 10,000-year struggle to survive. Marcus spoke next, his voice professorial but with an edge of steel. You evolved on paradise worlds. Your civilizations developed over millions of years in peace and plenty. You think that's normal? It's not. You're the exception. We're the rule. The transmission showed Earth as it had been millions of years ago. A brutal, beautiful, deadly world of ice and fire, flood and drought, predators and prey. This is a death world, Marcus said. Gravity that would crush most of your species. Temperature swings that would kill them. Bacteria and viruses that evolve faster than you can imagine. Predators designed by evolution to be perfect killing machines. And in this hell, humanity not only survived, we thrived. The images changed, showing human evolution. From prey animals hiding in trees to apex predators who hunted everything that had once hunted them. You want to know why we're violent? Sarah asked. Because violence kept us alive. Every instinct we have, every behavior you find disturbing exists because it worked. Aggression meant we ate instead of starving. Tribalism meant our families survived. Innovation meant we outlasted threats that should have killed us. The data package showed humanity's wars. But not just the death and destruction. It showed what came after. The lessons learned. The civilizations built, the progress made. The Black Death killed 30 million people, Elena said. It should have destroyed European civilization. Instead, it led to the Renaissance. The greatest explosion of art and science in human history came from the survivors of a plague. More images, more context. The World War's nuclear weapons, the Cold War that could have ended everything. We created weapons that could destroy our own planet, Marcus said, and then we chose not to use them. For 80 years, we've had the power to end our world. We're still here. That's not luck. That's choice. In the Concordat flagship, Kelthrak watched the transmission with growing unease. Around him, the council members reacted with shock and horror. They saw humanity's wars and saw only waste and violence. They didn't understand what the humans were trying to tell them, but Kelthrak was beginning to. He had studied the humans more carefully than the others. He had read their literature, analyzed their art, tried to understand their thinking. And now, watching this transmission, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Not fear of human weapons. The Concordat's technology was still vastly superior. No, this was a deeper fear. The fear of encountering something fundamentally different. Something that had been shaped by forces the Concordat couldn't imagine. The transmission continued. Sarah pulled up new data. Information that made even her hands shake slightly. You want to see what we've done in the 18 months since we learned you existed? She asked. Here. The screen showed projects humanity had completed. Not weapons, though there were plenty of those. No, these were scientific breakthroughs that should have taken decades or centuries. A working quantum entanglement communication system that could send messages faster than light. The Concordat had been working on that for 1,000 years. Successful generation of exotic matter, the theoretical substance needed for faster-than-light travel. The Concordat had deemed it impossible, a controlled microsingularity contained and stable. The Concordat had banned such research as too dangerous. We did all of this in 18 months, Marcus said quietly, while also preparing for war, while also maintaining our civilization, because you told us it was impossible, and humans don't accept impossible. Calthrak's form flickered rapidly, a sign of deep agitation among his species. The data was impossible. Except it wasn't. The humans had proof. They had working prototypes. They had done in a year and a half what the Concordat couldn't do in a millennium. Elena stepped forward again for the final part of the transmission. Her voice was hard as iron. You offered us a choice, she said. Surrender or die. But you don't understand. Those aren't different options for humanity. We would rather die fighting than live on our knees. That's not bravado. That's history. We have records of civilizations that chose extinction over submission. We have stories we tell our children about last stands and heroic defeats. The images behind her changed, showing humanity's weapons. Not the primitive missiles and bombs the Concordat expected, but something worse. You think if you destroy Earth, you destroy humanity? Sarah asked. We've seeded 12 colony worlds. We've hidden bases throughout the solar system. We've created automated defense systems that will activate if Earth falls. If you kill us, we'll make sure it costs you everything. Marcus pulled up tactical analyses. Your ships are powerful, but they're predictable. Your tactics are efficient, but they're inflexible. We've studied how you move, how you think, how you fight, and we've prepared accordingly. The final images showed human military doctrine, asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, scorched earth policies. Every dirty, brutal, effective strategy humanity had developed over 10,000 years of war. You'll win the first battle, Elena said. You have the numbers and the technology, but you won't win the war, because war is what humans do. It's what we've always done, and we're very, very good at it. She leaned closer to the camera and her voice dropped to something cold and absolute. You called us dangerous. You were right. We're the most dangerous species you've ever encountered, not because we're the strongest. Not because we're the smartest, but because we don't know how to quit. You can't negotiate with us because we'll take everything you offer and then demand more. You can't intimidate us because we've survived worse than you. You can't destroy us because we've already planned for that. Sarah moved beside her. So here's our counteroffer. Leave. Now. Go back to your paradise worlds and your peaceful councils. Tell them you met a species from a death world and that species told you no. Marcus added the final piece. Or stay, try to make us surrender, and learn what happens when a civilization that evolved in peace tries to fight a civilization that evolved in war. Elena finished it. The debate about our surrender is over. The question now is whether you want to start a war you can't win. You have 6 hours to decide. We'll be waiting. The transmission ended. In the command center of the Liberty Station, Sarah let out a long breath. Well, we just threatened the most powerful alliance in known space. Marcus smiled weakly. At least we'll make one hell of a footnote in galactic history. Elena's face on the screen showed grim determination. Now we wait and see if they're smart enough to understand what we just told them. Across Earth, humanity held its breath and prepared for whatever came next. The countdown clock showed 56 hours remaining when Dr. Marcus Webb arrived at the Liberty Station. Sarah Chen met him at the airlock personally, her uniform crisp despite the fact that she probably hadn't slept since the ultimatum. Thank you for coming so quickly, she said, shaking his hand. We need your brain. Marcus managed a tired smile. My brain is telling me we're in serious trouble. Tell me something I don't know, Sarah replied, leading him through the corridors. The station buzzed with activity. Soldiers ran past them carrying equipment. Officers shouted orders. The whole place felt like a kicked anthill. They entered a conference room where a dozen people waited. Military commanders, scientists, intelligence officers. President Volkov's face appeared on the main screen broadcast from Geneva. Dr. Webb, Elena said, we've read your preliminary report. You said the Concordat made a mistake in their ultimatum. Explain. Marcus moved to the front of the room and pulled up his data on the screens. Charts and graphs appeared showing energy signatures, communication patterns, ship movements. They think they know us, Marcus began, but they're working from incomplete information. Look at how their ships move. Perfect formations. No variation. No improvisation. Every action is planned and coordinated. So they're organized, an American general said. That's bad for us. No, you're missing the point, Marcus said, pulling up more data. They're organized because that's all they know how to be. I've analyzed every signal we've intercepted from them over the past 18 months. These aliens don't think like us. They've never had to. He brought up images of the concordate species that humanity had identified, crystalline beings, floating jellyfish-like creatures, insectoid hive minds that moved as one. Every single one of these species evolved on what we would call paradise worlds. Marcus explained, low gravity, stable climates, abundant resources. Their histories show millions of years of slow, peaceful development. Their wars were philosophical debates. Their conflicts were settled by committees. And, Sarah prompted, and Earth is a death world by their standards, Marcus said flatly. The room went quiet. Our gravity would crush half of them. Our temperature swings would kill another quarter. Our bacteria would be toxic to most of them. Earth tried to kill us every single day for millions of years, and we survived. He pulled up more data, this time showing Earth's history, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, disease outbreaks, predators with teeth like knives and claws like swords. We didn't evolve in paradise, Marcus continued. We evolved in hell, and we didn't just survive it. We conquered it. We killed every predator that hunted us. We outlasted every disease. We lived through every disaster. That's not normal. An Indian admiral leaned forward, his eyes sharp. You're saying they don't understand what they're threatening. Exactly, Marcus said. Look at their ultimatum again. They called us volatile, dangerous, reckless. They're right about all of it. But they think those are weaknesses. They think we're children who need supervision. When really? Elena asked from the screen. Marcus met her eyes. When really? We're the only species in their entire concordate who knows how to actually fight. Not debate. Not negotiate, fight. Sarah stood up, her mind racing. We can't beat them with weapons. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. So we don't beat them with weapons, Marcus said. We beat them with information. We show them exactly what they're threatening. We make them understand what humanity really is. President Volkov nodded slowly. A history lesson. The most important history lesson in human history, Marcus agreed. Over the next 24 hours, teams across Earth worked frantically. Historians compiled data, military analysts provided commentary, psychologists explained human behavior. They built a package that contained 10,000 years of human civilization. But this wasn't just dates and facts. This was context. This was the story of what made humanity human. They included the Black Death, the plague that killed 1/3 of Europe. But they also showed what came after. The Renaissance, an explosion of art and science and culture born from survival. They included the world wars, the bloodiest conflicts in human history. Millions dead, cities destroyed, but they also showed what followed. The United Nations. International cooperation on a scale never before seen. Nuclear weapons that had never been used again because humanity remembered the horror. They included every disaster Earth had thrown at humanity. The ice age that should have killed them but instead spread them across the planet. The droughts that should have starved them but instead taught them agriculture. The predators that should have eaten them but instead taught them to make tools. In the command center, Sarah reviewed the package with Marcus. The countdown showed 38 hours. Will they understand? She asked quietly. Marcus shrugged. I don't know. But they need to see it. They need to understand that our violence isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's how we survived. And if they don't care, then we fight anyway, Marcus said simply. Because that's what humans do. While the data package was being prepared, humanity's military mobilized in a way it never had before. Every nation contributed. Old enemies worked side by side. Russia and America. China and India. Israel and Iran. The alien threat had done what no human leader ever could. It had united the species. Admiral Chen coordinated from the Liberty Station. Earth's small fleet of military spacecraft took positions around the planet. They were hopelessly outmatched, but they were ready. Automated defense platforms went online. Experimental weapons that had never been tested were loaded and aimed at the stars. On Earth's surface, civil defense preparations began. Deep shelters were opened. Food and water were stockpiled. Medical teams prepared for casualties, but most people didn't hide. They watched the skies and waited. If these aliens wanted war, humanity would give them war. In his quarters on the Liberty Station, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept reviewing the data, looking for anything he had missed. His computer showed analyses of the Concordate's behavior patterns, their communication styles, their decision-making processes. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. The Concordate had never lost a war because they had never really fought one. They had never needed to. Their conflicts were resolved through diplomacy and negotiation. When they encountered aggressive species, they either absorbed them through cultural pressure or avoided them entirely. But humanity was different. Humanity couldn't be absorbed because human culture was built on conflict and survival, and humanity couldn't be avoided because Earth was too valuable, too strategic. So the Concordate had decided to do what they thought was merciful: control humanity before humanity became a threat. They didn't realize they were already too late. Humanity had been a threat since the first ape picked up a rock and realized it could be used to kill. Marcus pulled up one final piece of data. Hidden in the 18 months of communication, buried in the subtext and the careful diplomatic language, was a truth the Concordate hadn't meant to reveal. They were afraid, not of humanity specifically. They were afraid of something out in the dark spaces of the galaxy, something that had made even the mighty Concordate nervous. And now Marcus understood. The Concordate wasn't trying to save humanity from itself. They were trying to prevent humanity from becoming like whatever it was they feared, which meant there were worse things out there than the Concordate. And the Concordate knew that if humanity continued on its current path, it might become one of those things. Marcus smiled grimly. He opened a communication channel to Sarah's office. "Admiral," he said when she answered, "I need to add something to the data package. The Concordate is afraid of something, and I think we need to make them more afraid of us than whatever it is they're already scared of." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then she laughed harsh and sharp. "You want to threaten them." "I want to show them the truth," Marcus corrected. "That the most dangerous species in the galaxy isn't the one with the best weapons. It's the one that refuses to give up." "Do it," Sarah said. "We have 36 hours. Make it count." The massive ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system without warning. It was the size of a small moon, dark and gleaming like polished obsidian under the distant light of the sun. Every telescope on Earth turned toward it within minutes. Every satellite feed showed the same impossible sight. Humanity held its breath. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the orbital defense station Liberty, her hands gripped tight behind her back. She watched the screens with narrowed eyes. Around her, dozens of officers worked frantically at their stations trying to understand what they were seeing. The ship was enormous. It made every vessel humanity had ever built look like children's toys. "How long until it reaches Earth?" she asked. "At current speed, approximately 4 hours, ma'am," Lieutenant Rodriguez answered, his voice tight with tension. "But ma'am, there are more ships appearing." "Dozens of them." Sarah's jaw clenched. 18 months ago, humanity had received its first message from intelligent alien life. The contact had been brief and cold. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Concordate. They said they would return. They said humanity needed guidance. Now they were here, and they had brought an armada. Below on Earth, President Elena Volkov sat in the emergency council chamber deep beneath Geneva. The room was filled with leaders from every nation, their faces projected on screens that covered the walls. The arguing had started the moment the alien ships appeared and hadn't stopped since. "We must negotiate," the Chinese premier insisted. "We cannot fight ships of that size." "Negotiate what? Our surrender?" The American general shot back. "These aliens already told us they think we're dangerous. They're not here to talk." Elena raised her hand and the room fell silent. She was a tall woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 wars. She did not scare easily, but even she felt the weight of what was happening. "We will hear what they have to say," she said firmly. "Then we will decide." As if the aliens had been waiting for those exact words, every screen in the world suddenly went dark. Then they flickered back to life, showing the same image. A being made of blue crystal stood in what looked like a massive throne room. Its body caught the light and scattered it in 1,000 directions. When it spoke, the voice came through every speaker, every phone, every device connected to any network on Earth. "People of Earth," the being said. Its voice was beautiful and terrible, like ice cracking in deep winter. "I am Kelthrak, ambassador of the Galactic Concordate. We come on behalf of 47 civilized species who have watched your world with growing concern." In the command center, Sarah watched the transmission with growing dread. Something about the alien's tone made her skin crawl. It wasn't angry. It was worse than that. It sounded disappointed, like a parent about to punish a child. "Your species has shown remarkable progress," Kelthrak continued. "In a mere 10,000 years, you have gone from primitive agriculture to spaceflight. This would be cause for celebration, except for one critical problem. You are dangerous." The crystal being moved and the image behind it changed. It showed nuclear explosions, wars, weapons, genetic experiments, artificial intelligence programs, all the things humanity had created in its rush to advance. "You wage war on yourselves with terrifying efficiency," Kelthrak said. "You create weapons capable of destroying your own world. You manipulate the very code of life itself without understanding the consequences. You build artificial minds without considering what they might become. Left unchecked, you will either destroy yourselves or become a threat to all peaceful life in the galaxy." In her apartment in London, Dr. Marcus Webb watched the transmission with different eyes than most people. He was a physicist, and he had spent the last 18 months studying every scrap of data from that first alien contact. He noticed something now that others might miss. The alien's body language, the way it spoke, the careful choice of words. This wasn't a conversation. It was a verdict that had already been decided. "Therefore," Kelthrak said, and the entire world seemed to hold its breath, "the Galactic Concordat offers you a choice. You have 72 hours to surrender your sovereignty. You will submit to Concordat governance. We will guide your development. We will teach you to be peaceful. We will save you from yourselves." The image changed again, showing beautiful cities on alien worlds, clean technology, peaceful beings living in harmony. It looked like paradise. "This is what you can become under our guidance," Kelthrak said. "We offer you a future free from war, from suffering, from the violence that has defined your species." Then the image changed once more. This time it showed Earth from orbit, but wrong. The cities were dark. The lights were gone. Smoke rose from craters that glowed with terrible heat. "If you refuse," Kelthrak said. And now there was something like sadness in that crystal voice. "We will be forced to enact pacification protocols. Your military capabilities will be eliminated. Your dangerous technologies will be destroyed. Your population will be reduced to sustainable levels. You will be prevented from threatening yourselves or others." The screens went dark. The transmission ended. For a moment, the entire world was silent. Then the chaos began. In Geneva, the Emergency Council erupted into shouting. Some leaders called for immediate surrender. Others demanded war, no matter the cost. Still others simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had just heard. Elena stood and the room slowly quieted. "We need information," she said. "I want to know everything about these aliens. Their technology, their history, their weaknesses. We have 72 hours. Use every second." On the Liberty station, Sarah was already moving. "Get me every military commander in the solar system," she ordered. "I want every ship, every weapon, every soldier ready to deploy. And somebody find Dr. Webb. We need him up here now." Marcus was already packing when the call came. He had known they would need him. He grabbed his research, his computers, all the data he had collected. His hands shook slightly as he worked. Not from fear, though there was plenty of that. No, his hands shook because he had seen something in that transmission, something the aliens didn't realize they had revealed. The Concordat thought they were being merciful. They thought they were offering humanity salvation. But Marcus had spent his whole career studying how civilizations communicated, how they thought, how they made decisions, and everything about Kelthrak's message told him one thing. These aliens had never met anyone like humanity before. They didn't understand what they were really threatening. They thought humans were children playing with matches, dangerous because they were ignorant. They had no idea they were threatening a species that had been forged in fire. As Marcus boarded the shuttle that would take him to orbit, he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet waited for humanity's surrender. They expected compliance or easy victory. Marcus smiled grimly. They were going to be very surprised. Across Earth, humanity mobilized, not to surrender, not to hide, to fight, because that was what humans did when someone threatened them. They didn't have the technology to win. They didn't have the numbers or the experience. But they had something the Concordat had never encountered before. They had survived Earth. And anything that could survive Earth could survive anything,